This episode is about Donny Hathaway, who was an American soul singer, songwriter, pianist, and producer, known for his rich, emotive voice and socially conscious lyrics, and his duets with Roberta Flack. Without further ado, here's his story. Donny Edward Hathaway was born on October 1st, 1945 in Chicago, to Drusilla Huntley and Hosea Brown, a serviceman just returned from World War II. Shortly after his birth, Hathaway's parents split up, and his mother became unable to support her young son on her own. He was thus raised in the housing projects of St. Louis, Missouri, by both his mother and his maternal grandmother, Martha Cromwell, also known as Martha Pitts, a professional gospel singer. Martha recognized his musical talent early and encouraged his development. His grandmother's influence in the church played central roles in shaping his early musical foundation. A child prodigy, at age 3 he learned to play the piano, and at 4 he became known as America's youngest gospel singer as Little Donny Pitts. Hathaway was touring and singing gospel throughout the Midwest. At age 6 he began piano lessons and, shortly after, began composing his own music. Despite his musical talents, Hathaway's ambition was initially to join the church, and it wasn't until his later teenage years that he decided to professionally pursue music. As a high school student, Hathaway received classical piano training too. His piano teacher recalled him playing complex concertos by Grieg and Handel without any mistakes. At the age of 19, Hathaway received a scholarship to attend Howard University in Washington, D.C. There, Hathaway studied both music education and music theory. At the time of Hathaway's studies, Howard University taught only classical European music, refusing to delve into the wellspring of modern and historic black musical tradition. Jazz, the blues, and soul music were explored by the students after studying hours, and it was here that Hathaway was introduced to these genres for the first time. Hathaway had grown up entirely with music that was either classical or religious. His grandmother believed that other music was the devil's music. While still in college, Hathaway met friends and future collaborators, Leroy Hudson, Roberta Flack, and Rick Powell, singing in the latter's trio where he built a larger repertoire of pop and jazz songs. Hathaway also met Eulalia Donnell, a vocal performance major 1 year his senior. Hathaway and Donnell married in 1967 after she graduated. Despite his academic success, Hathaway felt increasingly unchallenged as he neared the end of his undergraduate career, and he left Howard shortly before graduating when he received a job offer from Curtis Mayfield as a producer for the record label Curtom. Mayfield recalled Donny's confidence in directing musicians in the studio, even at the young age of 23. He wasn't conceited about it, Mayfield said, but he knew he could do anything these guys could do, and almost certainly better. Hathaway and Mayfield's partnership didn't last. Hathaway felt increasingly limited in the role of arranger and pianist, and he wanted to pursue recording his own records. Shortly after, he was offered a record deal as a solo artist with Atco Records, a subsidiary of Atlantic Records, in 1969. In 1970, he released his first solo album, Everything is Everything, with the standout single, The Ghetto, Part 1, a socially conscious, jazz-infused funk track, and the following year the eponymous album Donny Hathaway, mostly with covers. Both albums were well received. It wasn't until his third album Roberta Flack and Donny Hathaway, with close friend and frequent collaborator Roberta Flack, that he would finally get huge commercial success too. Where is the Love, that reached number 5 on the Billboard single charts. Roberta Flack would become one of his closest friends. However, despite some rumors, they were never romantically involved. Perhaps Hathaway's most influential recording is his 1972 album, Live, which has been termed one of the best live albums ever recorded. Jerry Wexler at Atlantic Records was struck immediately by Hathaway's musical talent, which he wrote about. He referred to Hathaway as the most brilliant musical theorist he had ever encountered, recalling Hathaway's ability to play, sing, and arrange with an unapparalled depth. Wexler also noted that Hathaway was a perpetual student when it came to music. He learned and listened as much as he could, and would speak at length about complex, often abstract concepts of music. Theory to anyone willing to listen. However, Wexler, like many of Donny's other friends and colleagues, witnessed his self-doubt, his loneliness, and his frequent bouts of depression, which were never fully quelled despite the success of his first album and the albums that followed. Sadly, this would only get worse. From 1973 to 1977, Hathaway's mental instability wreaked havoc on his life and career and required several hospitalizations. After his fourth solo album, Extension of a Man, was released in 1973, his career slowed down considerably. He stopped recording, and the few concerts he held were mostly held in smaller venues. Donny Hathaway struggled with severe mental health issues, particularly paranoid schizophrenia, which deeply affected both his personal life and his music career. His symptoms included delusions, paranoia, and episodes of extreme depression. He often believed that people were out to harm him or that his music was being tampered with through electronic surveillance. His condition caused frequent hospitalizations and long breaks in his career. Collaborators, including Roberta Flack, noted that his behavior could be erratic, making it hard to maintain consistent creative partnerships. Effects of his depression and severe mood swings also drove a wedge in his and Flack's friendship. They did not reconcile for several years and did not release additional music until 1977. In 1978, Donny once again recorded a Flack collaboration that became a big hit, The Closer I Get to You, reaching the second spot on the Billboard chart, his biggest hit so far. They started to record a second duets album together the next year. On 13th of January 1979, Hathaway and Flack had recorded the duets Back Together Again and You Are My Heaven. The latter would be the last song Hathaway would ever record. During their recording session with musicians Eric Mercury and James Mtoom, each reported that although Hathaway was singing fine, he began behaving irrationally, seeming to be paranoid and delusional. According to Mtoom, Hathaway said that white people were trying to kill him and had connected his brain to a machine for the purpose of stealing his music and his voice. Given Hathaway's behavior, Mercury said that he decided the recording session could not continue, so he aborted it and all of the musicians went home. Hours later, Hathaway was found dead on the pavement below the window of his 15th floor room in New York City's Essex House Hotel at 160 Central Park South. It was reported that he had jumped from his balcony. His hotel room door was locked from the inside and the window glass carefully removed. There were no signs of a struggle, leading investigators to rule that Hathaway's death was a suicide. He was 33. Flack was devastated and, spurred by his death, included the few duets they had finished on her next album, Roberta Flack featuring Donny Hathaway. Hathaway's funeral was conducted by the Reverend Jesse Jackson. Despite Hathaway's life and career being cut short because of mental illness, his legacy lived on. Stevie Wonder admitted he was a big fan of his music at the time. He said, "One of the greatest musicians and singers of all time." Donny was also a major influence in the neo-soul movement, where artists like D'Angelo and later Alicia Keys, John Legend, and Amy Winehouse citing him as an influence, drawn to his emotional depth, musicianship, and socially conscious songwriting. Donny had 3 daughters, Eulala, Lala, and Kenya and Donita. Lala would go on to become a self-acclaimed singer on her own. She had released 8 studio albums to this date and won 5 Grammy Awards. Kenya worked as a session singer and was a backup vocalist on the television show American Idol. Kenya has also contributed to the music industry as a vocal coach and voiceover artist. Donita founded off the Donny Hathaway Legacy Project, a nonprofit organization dedicated to promoting mental health awareness and honoring her father's musical legacy. Thanks for watching.